Hello, and welcome to another edition of Smoke Signals. I'm your host for today's show, Lieutenant Chris Taylor from the LaGrange Fire Department. We have a great show lineup for you today. Our special guest is Miss Jessica McFadden of the American Red Cross. So sit back and relax, because you're about to watch Smoke Signals. Hello and welcome back. Today I have with me Miss Jessica McFadden, who is the Disaster Program Manager for the Three Rivers chapter of American Red Cross. Hello Jessica, and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you here today, and I look forward to hearing about all the wonderful information you're going to be sharing with our viewing audience. But before we get into that, if you could just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and your roles and responsibilities at the American Red Cross.
Sure. Well, I'm a disaster program manager, so I've been with the Red Cross for about a year and a half now.
Okay.
I'm originally from Florida. My husband and I moved here about 2 years ago. He's with Boys and Girls Club, so that's why we came here.
Cool.
But I was lucky to get a job with the Red Cross.
All right.
It's a great organization. Being a disaster program manager, my job is to implement our disaster cycle services program within a specific territory. So we cover a 10-county region. My job is really to manage volunteers to carry out our mission. We primarily focus on our chapter primarily focuses on disaster services. So we get called for incidents like fires, storms, where we go out and assist families with, if they need hotel, food, clothing, whatever their immediate emergency needs might be following a disaster.
Right.
Our job is also, on top of responding, we also try to prepare the community. So there's a lot of things that we'll touch on in terms of building community resiliency within our 10-county area. And then recovery is also a big part of what we do. Once a family has a disaster, there's a lot of things we do to help them get back on their feet, and just providing referrals if it's something that we can't do. So that's the volunteers really are there to carry out the mission. We are 96% volunteer based.
Okay.
So we have 4 staff members out of our local office here in LaGrange.
Right.
So
pretty interesting, and can be challenging at the same time.
There's a lot to do,
Right.
Especially within 10 counties. So
yeah, exactly. Well, if you could just kind of give an overview of the American Red Cross. What is the American Red Cross?
We are a humanitarian organization. Our mission is to prevent and alleviate human suffering in the face of emergencies by mobilizing the power of volunteers and the generosity of donors. So like I said, we are largely volunteer based. There's 5 core lines of service that we have. I think everybody would know more about blood services.
Right.
You see the blood drives out in the area. Disaster services is our primary function here at this chapter. Right. We also have service to the armed forces and international services and health and safety services.
Okay, all right, good, sounds good. And of course, when you talk about the American Red Cross, mostly everybody is familiar with the American Red Cross because they are a national organization, and they have been involved in, like you said, so many different type of disasters, incidents, and we can go on and on and on the incidents that we've seen just on the news over the past few years, where the American Red Cross was a vital part of, like you're saying, helping with relief efforts, and also helping families get back on their feet.
Yeah.
We have several great topics we're going to be talking about today, and the first one that we want to discuss is the health and safety training.
Okay.
So let's kind of talk about what are some of the things that you all do as far as health and safety training.
We get a lot of calls for first aid CPR training that is offered to our community. at our LaGrange office. If anybody's interested in any of our health and safety trainings, they can call our office line or visit our website. It's www.redcross.org.
Okay.
And folks can go on there and just type in their zip code, and they'll be able to pull up any upcoming trainings that they might be interested in.
Okay. And you mentioned the CPR and first aid being primarily the number one request from the community. Now, how often do you all have those particular classes? Are they kind of by demand? Or?
It's by demand. Usually they're a few times per month.
Okay.
There's courses also available in Columbus and Opelika if folks are willing to travel. They're held more frequently down there.
Okay.
So.
All right. Now, a couple other topics dealing with health and safety training that we'd like to discuss today. Let's talk about babysitting. I'm quite sure that there are a lot of children that will be going back to school, but there's also going to be some babysitting going on too while the parents are away going to work and things of that nature. So let's kind of talk about your babysitter training.
We do have a new babysitter training. It is, if anybody's interested in babysitting, it talks about working with children under the age of 10.
Okay.
It was released this spring, so we offer an online training. There's also a classroom training.
Okay. Cool.
There is a fee to take in the training, but you can get that information on our website.
Okay, good. And caregiving. We can't talk about caregiving enough because we have a lot of senior adults who need to have assistance. Some of them live by themselves and things of that nature. So let's kind of talk about your caregiving training.
We do offer a caregiving training. I believe it's online and in the classroom. There is a fee associated with that as well, but just for more information on that, you can look at our website on redcross.org.
Okay, sounds good. Now, where can people go to find information on health and safety trainings that are offered in our area? If they don't go to the website, is there any other places where they can get this information?
Our local office is actually right in the Driver Services building. We are located off Dallas Street.
Okay.
It's fairly close to LaGrange College, so if anybody has questions or wants information about those trainings, they can just stop in or call our office line. It's 884-5818.
All right.
And we can provide them with information if they don't have access to a computer.
Okay, area code 706.
706 area code.
It's funny. It's funny that you mentioned that because I remember when we used to just not have to dial area code, but now you got to dial area code for everything. So, so I want to make sure we put that out there. Now, back to school.
Yeah.
It's that time of the year again, and I know a lot of the kids are like, I'm still enjoying my summer, but the thing is it's time to go back to school, and families are getting prepared, children are getting prepared, and the Red Cross is getting prepared.
Yes.
So let's talk about some back to school preparedness that the Red Cross currently have going on.
Yeah, we are really excited to offer a new youth preparedness program. It's called the Pillowcase Project.
Okay.
And this project is a nationwide program that started after Hurricane Katrina. This is when a professor saw students taking their supplies and household items out. They were putting them in a pillowcase as they were evacuating their building for Hurricane Katrina.
Right.
So the program started after that, and it's for grades 3 through 5, and what we do is focus on a specific hazard in your area. So like for Georgia, we focus on tornado preparedness.
Right.
We also focus on fire safety. So those are the two areas that we focus on here. But once we go through working with kids on how they can be prepared for those two hazards, they get a special pillowcase that they get to color and decorate, and it becomes their disaster supply bag.
Okay, cool.
So, and this program is funded by Walt Disney World. Our goal at this chapter is to target 600 kids by March. So we are looking for any schools or youth agencies that might be interested in this program.
Okay, good, good. Now, are there any other programs that you all offer?
We do offer a Scrubby Bear program. It's for grades K through 2, and it's really just a hygiene presentation that we can do on teaching them how to be clean, wash their hands, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's important, because if you run into a situation where there isn't a disaster and you have no power, you have limited access to water, if you want to be clean, you got to use some very creative measures to do that. And I think for children, that's a good thing to be able to have that hygiene program to kind of give them some ideas of some things that they can do when your normal resources are not available to you. All right, emergencies. What are some of the type of emergencies here in your local in our local chapter that you all respond to?
Our biggest emergency would probably be the single-family house fire. Within our 10-county area, we responded to 206 incidents this past year. Our year cover starts on July 1st. We go to June 30th. So 206 cases. That was a lot for us this year.
Right.
It was about a 20% increase from the year before.
Right.
Mostly single-family fires, but we also responded to a multi-unit apartment fire in Newnan back in. It was actually during the ice storm.
Yeah, I remember that.
So we also had cases going on for the ice storm as well. But we also have storm damage. Especially during the spring when you've got the severe weather coming in.
Right.
We get a lot of trees on houses and things like that.
And we've had a pretty active storm.
Yes.
Well, not as active as we thought it might be, but it started off real active early.
Yeah.
Here in our area, we've had 2 confirmed tornadoes that hit the Troup County area, which is definitely unusual.
Yeah.
But the thing is it just lets us know and keeps our eyes and ears open that that threat for disaster in our community is imminent anytime we have bad weather. So whether it's the summer, whether it's the spring, whether it's the winter, it doesn't matter. We always got to keep our ears and eyes open to what's going on around us at all times.
Yeah.
We've talked about the emergencies. What are some of the assistance that you all provide to families?
Well, our goal is really to meet our clients' immediate emergency need, within the first 24 to 72 hours. A lot of our families are low income. They really don't know what to do or where to go following a disaster. So our job is really to come in. The top 3 items we provide are hotel, food, and clothing. We can also replace medication. We can do eyeglasses if they've been lost during the fire or other incident. We can also do mental health counseling. We have volunteers available, and the counseling is free to the family if they need it. If there's been a fatality, we do cover part of funeral expenses as well.
Oh, wow.
So just within the past year, we've seen at least 5 or 6 fatalities, one of which was in Newnan. There were 5 deaths in one fire. So that can be hard, but we've got some great volunteers that are always willing to help. So.
And that's what's important, because when someone who has faced a situation like that, especially a fatality, that is tough to deal with, and not only just for the family, but for the community, and maybe even for some of the rescuers who were involved. So being able to have those, like you said, those mental health services are very, very important, because in a time of need, such as a loss of life, people need to have someone to talk to, and they need to have resources that's going to kind of help them cope with whatever it is that they're dealing with. And then sometimes it may take a little longer for them to cope with the situation, but at least they know they have some immediate help, and it's good to know that you all have those resources readily available.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we've covered some great topics, and I know we have a lot more topics that we want to discuss, but at this time, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have more here on Smoke Signals. Welcome back. We've been here talking about several important topics concerning the American Red Cross here with Jessica McFadden, who is the disaster project manager for the Three River chapter of American Red Cross here in our local area. And Jessica, let's talk about some other important topics that where we can kind of get our viewers maybe involved in some of the activities and things that the American Red Cross have to offer. And the first one is volunteer opportunities. Yeah. Always gotta have volunteers. Right. So how can a person be a Red Cross volunteer?
Right. Well, like I said, we're 96% volunteer based, so we do rely heavily on our volunteers to carry out our mission within the community. If you want to become a volunteer, you can actually apply online. It's really easy, just a quick online application. We do have background checks that have to be completed as well. Okay. And then once we get through the online application, we do go through just a quick orientation with the volunteer to talk to them about the different volunteer opportunities that are available.
Okay. And what are some of those volunteer opportunities?
We have something for everyone. Right now we've got about 32 different activities that volunteers can get involved in. Okay. Those range from sheltering, feeding, client casework, logistics. We have staff services and training if you like working with other volunteers. Right. There's also mental health and health services, so we do have a wide range of activities that they can get involved in. Okay.
Now, when you do have someone that is on your volunteer program, when you have like a disaster or something like that where there's a special need for the community, now how are those individuals contacted?
The family or?
The volunteers.
Oh, volunteer. It depends on the situation. Like if we have a fire or multi-unit apartment fire like we just had a few weeks ago, either the fire department or police department or the emergency management director would call us saying that the family needed assistance. We have volunteers that are on call 24/7, so we are free. In the middle of the night, 2 in the morning, they will get up and come out to help that family. So
that's great.
They're called the Disaster Action Team. So we've got on that team probably about 30 to 40 volunteers within our 10-county area that go out and respond to those local incidents that occur. Cool. If it's a national disaster, our volunteers, we basically can deploy them out. We do cover, expenses, travel, lodging, things like that. But they can go out and deploy and work in a shelter. They can do feeding. We've got emergency response vehicles they can drive. So there is truly something for everybody.
Now, have any of your team members had to respond to any disasters any national disasters within the last year?
Yes, actually, we did have a volunteer recently deployed to Pensacola for the flooding that occurred a few months ago down there, and he spent about 2 weeks working in a shelter.
Okay. So, and that's good to know. So, even though you volunteer your services, it doesn't mean that your services are just located right here in our 10 counties, but you could be anywhere in the United States or maybe overseas as well.
Right. Yeah, and it's really, it's not mandatory to deploy. If you do become a volunteer, that can be a misconception. Our volunteers, they can choose to go if they want to, or they can just respond to local disasters.
Okay, good. All right, now let's talk about, we mentioned the volunteers, but you also got to have some other support there too. So let's talk about community partners. Right. Do you have any projects you are currently working with any of your community partners?
Well, throughout the year we work on preparedness. We're always working with whether it's public health, defects, emergency management directors. We're always having those conversations ahead of time, before a disaster happens to make sure we are prepared. Okay. One particular project we are going to be working on this fall is our home fire preparedness campaign. That is where we are going to be targeting specific neighborhoods. This is actually a nationwide project, but we'll target a specific neighborhood that could benefit from us coming out and doing a canvassing event where we come out and we install smoke alarms. We talk to them about building a family supply kit, practicing their emergency plan. And that, we can't do it by ourselves.
Right.
We would be partnering with local fire departments like LaGrange Fire. But if there are other agencies are interested in that, we will. It does require us to kind of build a coalition so that we get ready for that canvassing event in October.
Okay, sounds good. And of course, we're getting prepared for that. In October is Fire Prevention Month. And for the theme for Fire Prevention Week is smoke alarms again. So smoke alarms is an important tool to have in the home. It has been for centuries because it's a proven fact that working smoke alarms do save lives. And we can't preach that message enough. Unfortunately, we still have a number of citizens across the country who do not have smoke alarms in the home, or their smoke alarms are not working properly, and unfortunately fire incidents occur and injuries and loss of life do happen. And so we want to continue to keep that campaign going and continue to keep that message out there, because the more our citizens can protect themselves, the better we can serve them when there is an emergency. Because we never want to lose a life. Unfortunately, lives are lost in fires, and but the more prepared they are when a fire emergency occurs, the better it is for us to be able to just focus on the fire itself and not just human life.
Yeah. And the goal of that campaign is actually to reduce the amount of fire-related incidents, injuries, and deaths by 25% over the next 5 years.
Okay. Well,
so
and
we can't do that alone. We definitely need our help with our community partners.
Exactly, exactly. There's another component to this with community partners. Let's talk about community disaster education presentations. How are those done, and how often are they done?
Throughout the year, like I said, part of our job is just building community resiliency and focusing on preparing folks before a disaster happens. So what we do is we get a lot of requests for volunteers to come out and conduct community disaster education. We do several presentations throughout the year. Our busiest time is probably during National Preparedness Month, which for us is September, October, October also being Fire Prevention Month. So we really go out and just teach folks how to build a disaster supply kit, whether it's for their home, their car, work. We talk to them about building that kit, making their plan with their family, practicing that plan, and also just being informed.
Right, okay. Cool. And community education, just like we were saying earlier, is very, very important, and being able to utilize those very outlets to get information out, because we all know that you can't always reach out to your community by doing a public presentation. Sometimes you have to use television media, radio media, and things of that nature to kind of get your message out there. Because people use media different ways, even print media as well. So I applaud you all by taking those proactive measures and going out and doing those presentations, because preparedness, we can't say it enough. It's important in everyone's lives, and we need to make sure that we have a plan in place so that when something happens, we know what to do and where to go. Now, upcoming events or projects. Y'all are pretty busy when it comes to doing projects and things of that nature. So do you have any upcoming events in preparation for hurricane season? Since we do have some active storms going on right now.
We actually, every year we hold a shelter drill. And this is really just to make sure that our volunteers are ready to handle those situations, should the need arise to open a shelter during a hurricane event. It's also open to the public, so we welcome anybody to come in. We'll be setting up a mock shelter, and also just walking through to be able to show people, what's involved with a shelter, what is offered to families in a shelter. So And we do this because, especially for Troup County, Troup is one of the counties that has been selected under Georgia's Emergency Evacuation Shelter Initiative. So, because given the fact we're so close to the interstate, if we've got people coming from Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, we could be called upon to open a shelter if there was a Gulf hurricane. So we've spent a lot of time really just updating shelter locations. Our chapter has about 90 shelter locations within our 10-county region. Our shelter drill is, like I said, really just to make sure, you know, the community is more aware of why it's so important to be prepared. And it's also just to train our volunteers because, you know, knock on wood, we haven't had a lot of disasters of that magnitude in Georgia recently. So this just kind of gives them an opportunity to practice before something does happen.
And that's good. Now, let me ask you this, as far as shelters, what criteria do you all generally use in order selecting a shelter?
We do try to make sure it's ADA compliant. But most of our shelter locations are churches. We do have some schools that are shelters, but we're trying to get away from that just because we don't want to disrupt the normal daily routine of the kids if they're trying to get back to school.
Exactly.
So it's primarily churches, I would say. Okay,
well that's good. And of course, you know, when you talk about having a shelter, it needs to be somewhere that, you know, pretty decent size. You know, because you don't know the influx of people that you have coming in. Now, you mentioned Troup County being identified by the state as a shelter location. Now, let's say, for instance, we have an incident that's just overwhelming and, you know, you're at capacity. Then what is the next location that would be considered?
Muskogee County would probably be the next closest.
Okay, okay. So and that's good to know for our viewing audience that we have locations that are identified as shelter, whether it be Troup County or the Muskogee County area for, like you said, any Gulf type evacuations.
And we actually have pre-identified the Mike Daniel Rec Center as our primary location just because it has good facilities, you know, with showers, restrooms, things like that. So it can hold more people than some of our other shelter locations in the area.
All right, well, sounds good. Well, Jessica, well, I want to thank you once again for sharing that wealth of information today concerning the American Red Cross. And we'll look forward to possibly seeing you on the show again in the near future. And we'll hope that you continue your services as being the disaster program manager. And I know you don't have a dull moment, especially when there is an incident. So we applaud you for the work that you do here in our community.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right, no problem. And we want to thank you, our viewing audience, for watching another segment of Smoke Signals. So until next time, take care.